Hi, welcome back to The Perspective on Barita Satu. I'm Blaise with Paul Grigson, Australian Ambassador to Indonesia. Well, let's talk about business. We'll start with exports, which is a big part of what's going on between Australia and Indonesia and the region in general. What do you see as important in that field going forward?
So I think there are a couple of issues there. The first is Australia and Indonesia have quite a good record in traded goods. I'd like to see that improve, of course. I think a growing area for focus in both countries is in services. We support the Indonesian Services Dialogue. I think that's a very important program to increase the knowledge of services in Indonesia, and then there's investment, which we talked about earlier. But for me, the great opportunity is in third country markets. Australia and Indonesia need to work much harder at looking for areas where we can cooperate together and export product to the third country markets. Money is made in finding the right spot in the global supply chain. Australia and Indonesia can do much more together to find that spot.
Is this your priority or one of your priorities?
It is one of my priorities. I'm very keen to encourage both two-way trade, but also trade into third countries. I think too often we get caught up in arguments about short-term issues and quotas and tariffs, which are very important, and my government won't let them go. But we do need to focus on a long-term strategic approach, and I think that's around the opportunities that are in burgeoning markets in our region.
What are the kind of things you'd like to see happen during the next few years while you're here towards that goal?
So I think there are two good examples. The first is around food. You see Australia is a high quality commodity exporter. Indonesian capacities in food processing are growing. You look at the success of Indo Foods in exporting to many countries, including to Australia. I think if you put together commodity production, food processing, you get a quality product with quality processing, big third country markets for food. So I think very big potential on that front. The second is in areas like automotive capacity. I know there's talk here about a national car, for instance. Well, I think there are many capacities in Australia that could be used to support that project, and then together and over time, a product of quality will be able to be exported to third countries.
Do you think local content laws might get in the way of that?
Look, I think there are ways to talk about the sort of services and product that are supplied. I think if we approach it with a strategic view in mind, there are ways to deal with it and make a product and build a product that is, over time, exportable. I think there's big potential in that area.
Okay. Within farming, agriculture,
yes.
What sort of specifics? Cattle, beef production?
So cattle is a very good example. So Australia is very good at growing cattle, raising cattle. We have the big tracts of land necessary for that. Indonesia is very good at fattening cattle. Terrific feedlots here, cattle do very well in them. Indonesia is developing better meat processing facilities. The market in Indonesia for beef will grow so much over the coming decade that Indonesia in and of itself will never be able to produce the beef required to service the market. I think with cooperation between the two countries, there's big opportunities for businesses to make good profit, and for consumers, most importantly, consumers to have a stable price. I think there are many opportunities like that between Indonesia and Australia.
I just want to look very quickly back to the third-party markets. What market specifically are you going to? Is this just a case of the biggest consumers already, or is this within ASEAN?
I think ASEAN is one, you're absolutely right, ASEAN is one potential market. East Asia is where the growth will be in middle class markets. I think Indonesia itself is seeing its growth in its own middle class. I, for what it's worth, would focus on the East Asian markets and look more carefully at the Middle East, where there's growing disposable income.
Okay. All right, well, we're just going to go to break again, but when we come back, we'll still be with Paul Grigson, Australian Ambassador to Indonesia. Stay with us.